When I moved into my quiet suburban neighborhood, I never imagined that something as simple as a barbecue grill would turn my life into a full-blown war with the HOA. I had always dreamed of having a peaceful backyard where I could cook for my family and invite friends over. It wasn't anything extravagant, just a simple setup with a quality grill, a few chairs, and a wooden deck where I could enjoy weekend cookouts. But I quickly learned that the HOA in this neighborhood had a ridiculous obsession with control. The first complaint came as a neatly folded letter in my mailbox. I opened it with a smile, expecting some welcome note from the HOA, but instead, I found a violation notice. Apparently, my grill was unsightly and disruptive to the community aesthetic. I chuckled, thinking it was a mistake. My grill was in my backyard, behind a 6-foot privacy fence. Who could possibly be complaining about it? I shrugged it off, assuming it was just a minor issue. The next weekend, I fired up my grill as usual, flipping burgers and ribs while my family gathered around, enjoying the evening. That's when I saw her, the dreaded HOA president Mrs. Callahan, standing at the edge of my property, arms crossed, staring like I had committed a crime. "You received our notice," she said in a tone so sharp it could cut through my steak. "I did," I replied, keeping my voice calm. "But my grill is completely within my property. It's not against any specific rule." She sniffed the air, clearly irritated. "You're disturbing the neighborhood with smoke and food smells. We don't allow barbecue grills in this community." I frowned. "That's ridiculous. Other people have grills." She smirked. "They use small electric grills, no charcoal, no gas, and no large cookouts. Your setup is excessive." I wanted to argue, but I knew it wouldn't get me anywhere. She handed me another notice, this time with a $500 fine attached. "Remove it within 7 days, or we'll escalate." I watched her walk away, my fists clenched. I wasn't about to back down. If they wanted a fight, I was ready to turn up the heat, literally. The moment Mrs. Callahan walked away, I knew this wasn't just about a grill, it was about control. The HOA wanted to dictate how I lived on my own property, and I wasn't about to let that happen. I had worked hard to buy this house, and I wasn't going to bow down to ridiculous rules, especially when I knew for a fact that other neighbors had grills. I spent the next few days researching the HOA bylaws, looking for loopholes. What I found was infuriating but useful. Nowhere in the rules did it explicitly say that barbecue grills were banned. They had vague phrases like maintaining community aesthetics and minimizing disruptive activities, but no hard rule against cooking in my backyard. That gave me an idea. But before I could act, the HOA escalated their attack. On the 4th day after receiving the fine, I came home from work to find my grill gone. At first, I thought someone had stolen it, but then I saw the bright orange notice taped to my fence. "Unauthorized structure removed per HOA regulations." I was livid. They had trespassed onto my property and taken my grill without warning. I stormed into my house, grabbed my phone, and called the HOA office. A robotic voice answered, followed by a long irritating hold. After what felt like ages, a bored-sounding HOA assistant picked up. "HOA office, how can I assist you?" "My grill was taken from my backyard. Who authorized this?" I demanded. "Your grill was in violation of HOA guidelines." "No, it wasn't," I interrupted. "There is no rule against it." The assistant sighed. "Sir, please refer to the notice. You can retrieve your grill after paying the fine and submitting a request for removal." I clenched my jaw. "You expect me to pay $500 to get my own property back?" "That is the procedure, sir." I hung up, furious. I wasn't just going to retrieve my grill, I was going to make the HOA regret ever messing with me. That night, I called a few close friends, guys I had known for years, some of them restaurant owners, others chefs, and one even a lawyer. I told them everything, and one of them laughed, saying, "You know what would really tick them off? If you made barbecue an actual business." And that's when it clicked. If they wanted to ban my personal grill, I'd turn my backyard into a fully licensed, legal outdoor restaurant. Once the idea hit me, I couldn't shake it. If the HOA wanted to be petty, I'd go big. They claimed a simple barbecue grill was against the rules? Fine. I'd turn my backyard into a legal restaurant, something they couldn't just remove like they had done with my grill. I spent the next few days researching home-based food businesses. I discovered a loophole in local laws. As long as I had the proper licenses and followed health regulations, I could legally operate a small-scale food business from my home. I wasn't alone in this either. My friend Marco, a restaurant owner, loved the idea. You don't even have to go full scale, he said. Start with something small, like a weekend barbecue pop-up. If people like it, you can expand. That was all the motivation I needed. The paperwork war begins. Before doing anything, I needed to get fully licensed. I drove down to the city's business office and applied for a home-based food permit. The clerk looked at me like I was crazy when I told him I wanted to open a backyard barbecue joint, but he shrugged and gave me the paperwork. A few forms, a small fee, and a scheduled health inspection later, I was officially approved. But I didn't stop there. I contacted a lawyer, my friend Jake, and asked him to go through the HOA bylaws with a fine-tooth comb. After a few hours, he grinned. They can fine you for a personal grill, but they have no authority to stop a licensed business operating under city regulations, he said. As long as you follow noise and zoning laws, you're golden. That was exactly what I needed to hear. Since the HOA had stolen my grill, I upgraded. Instead of a small backyard barbecue, I bought a massive commercial-grade smoker, one that could handle huge amounts of meat. Delivery day was glorious. A flatbed truck arrived, and neighbors peeked out of their windows as workers unloaded the massive gleaming smoker into my backyard. I could already hear the HOA losing their minds in my head. By the evening, I had it up and running. I threw in some ribs and brisket, and within an hour, the entire street smelled like heaven. I wasn't even open for business yet when the first complaint arrived. A letter from the HOA landed on my doorstep, filled with legal jargon about unapproved structures and unauthorized commercial activity. I laughed. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Instead of responding, I put up a huge sign in my front yard. Weekend barbecue pop-up, opening soon. All neighbors welcome. Then I took out my permit and mailed a copy to the HOA board. They had just declared war, and I was ready to win. The moment my sign went up, the entire neighborhood started buzzing with excitement. People walked by, asking, "Wait, is this real? You're actually opening a barbecue spot here?" "Absolutely," I grinned. "And guess what? First night, neighbors eat free." Word spread fast. The HOA might have wanted to shut me down, but my own neighbors? They were thrilled. Before I could even finish setting up my first official barbecue night, the HOA president, Karen Whitmore, came stomping up my driveway. Her signature tight blazer and pursed lips gave away her mood before she even spoke. "This is unacceptable," she snapped. "You can't just turn your home into a restaurant. It's against HOA policy." I held up a copy of my official permit and smiled. "Actually, Karen, I can. City law allows home-based food businesses, and since my backyard meets all zoning regulations, the HOA has no authority here." Her face turned red. "We'll see about that." She snatched the paper from my hand and stormed off. I barely made it back to my smoker when I heard sirens. The cops show up and stay for dinner. 2 officers strolled into my yard, hands resting on their belts. "We got a complaint about unauthorized business activity," one of them said. I sighed. "Let me guess. Karen Whitmore." The officer exchanged a glance with his partner. "You know her?" "Oh yeah," I said. "She's the president of the HOA, and she's been trying to shut me down since day one." I handed over my permits, along with a copy of the local home business laws. The officers took one look, nodded, and shrugged. "Well," one of them said, "looks like everything's in order." Karen, who had been standing on the sidewalk, arms crossed, looked like she had swallowed a lemon. As the cops turned to leave, one of them caught a whiff of the ribs smoking behind me. "Damn, that smells good," he muttered. I smiled. "Stick around. First night's free for neighbors." They did. Within 20 minutes, I had 2 police officers sitting in my backyard, plates piled high with barbecue. Karen stormed off, muttering something about calling a lawyer. Despite the HOA's interference, my first night was a hit. Neighbors poured in, drawn by the smell of hickory-smoked ribs and brisket. Families, young couples, even retirees, everyone wanted a taste. One elderly couple, the Hendersons, stopped by and shook my hand. "We've lived here 30 years, and this is the best thing to ever happen in this neighborhood," Mr. Henderson laughed. By the end of the night, I had sold out completely. More importantly, the HOA had failed to stop me. But Karen wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The next morning, I woke up to a fine taped to my front door, a ridiculous $1,000 penalty for excessive smoke and neighborhood disturbance. It was pure nonsense. I grabbed the fine and marched straight to Karen's house. She opened the door with a smug grin. "You can't keep this up," she said. "We'll bury you in fines until you shut down." I smiled back. "Go ahead and try." What Karen didn't realize was that I had been recording our conversation on my phone. I posted the entire interaction online, along with photos of my legal permits and the ridiculous fine. Within hours, my post went viral. People across the city started calling out the HOA's harassment. Some even offered to help cover the fine. That's when I knew this war wasn't over. It was just beginning. The moment my post went viral, everything changed. Hundreds of people flooded the comments, outraged at the HOA's ridiculous fine. Some shared their own horror stories about HOA overreach, while others offered legal advice. A few even tagged local news stations, urging them to cover the story. It didn't take long before a local reporter reached out, asking for an interview. I wasn't about to back down. If Karen and the HOA wanted a fight, they were about to get one, in front of the whole city. 2 days later, a news van pulled up in front of my house. A well-dressed reporter, Emily Carter, stepped out with her cameraman. "So let me get this straight," she said as the camera rolled. "The HOA fined you $1,000 simply for running a backyard barbecue business that is completely legal?" "That's right," I nodded. "And this isn't even their first attempt. They called the cops, tried to shut me down, and now they're making up fake violations to intimidate me." Karen must have seen the cameras from her window, because within minutes, she came storming down the street with 2 HOA board members. "You can't do this," she snapped. "This is private HOA business." Emily turned to her, microphone in hand. "Ms. Whitmore, would you like to comment on why your HOA is fining a resident for a legally permitted home business?" Karen's face twisted in anger. "This is a violation of community standards. He's disturbing the neighborhood." Emily arched an eyebrow. "Yet many of his neighbors seem to be enjoying his food. Are you saying the HOA has the power to fine someone for making their own backyard smell too good?" Karen sputtered, unable to come up with a response. The camera caught everything. I couldn't have planned it better. By the time the segment aired that evening, the public backlash was massive. The next morning, I woke up to even more support than before. People from all over the city started showing up to try my barbecue. Some even brought signs that read, "Let him cook. Barbecue HOA. Stop the power trip." I wasn't just running a backyard restaurant anymore, I had started a movement. Even city officials took notice. The mayor's office put out a statement reminding residents that HOAs do not have the power to override city business permits. Karen and her HOA board were losing control, and they knew it. That's when they pulled their dirtiest move yet. That afternoon, I received a cease and desist letter in the mail. The HOA was now threatening legal action, claiming that my barbecue business was causing irreparable harm to the neighborhood's character. The letter demanded that I shut down immediately, or they would take me to court. I read it twice, then did something Karen never expected. I laughed. Then I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. A week later, I sat in a courtroom across from Karen and the HOA board. Their lawyer stood up and argued that my barbecue business was lowering property values and ruining the community's aesthetic. My lawyer, a sharp guy named Tom Harris, smiled and stood. "Your Honor, let's talk about what's really happening here." Tom pulled up pictures of my backyard, showing my clean, well-maintained cooking area, my approved city permits, and even positive feedback from my neighbors. "This isn't about community standards. This is about an HOA overstepping its authority and targeting a resident who simply followed the law." Then he presented the news footage of Karen's meltdown. The judge watched the video, then looked directly at Karen. "Ms. Whitmore, is this you, saying that his business is legal but you simply don't like it?" Karen shifted uncomfortably. "Well, yes or no?" the judge pressed. Karen stayed silent. The judge sighed. "This lawsuit is baseless. Case dismissed." And Ms. Whitmore, I'd advise your HNA to review its policies before wasting this court's time again. I walked out of that courtroom a free man. Karen? She walked out humiliated. But the best part? The HNA was now on the defensive, and I wasn't done yet. Karen and the HMA had lost in court, but I knew they weren't going to stop their petty games. They had embarrassed themselves publicly, and their only move now was damage control. But I wasn't about to let them rewrite the narrative. If they thought this fight was over, they were dead wrong. After the court ruling, I went back to business as usual, but things had changed. More people than ever were showing up to eat at my backyard barbecue, not just for the food but to support the guy who beat the HOA. I even had a local radio station reach out, asking if I wanted to do a live segment. During the interview, they asked me, "What's next for your barbecue business?" I grinned. Well, since my backyard is so popular, I figured, why not go bigger? You mean like a restaurant? The host asked. Something even better, I said. Because while Karen and the HMA were busy licking their wounds, I had been making moves in silence. For weeks, I had been scouting commercial properties, looking for the perfect spot to expand my barbecue business. And guess what? I found one. A huge empty lot just outside our neighborhood, right next to the HMA's community clubhouse. The best part? The land was not under HOA jurisdiction, which meant I could do whatever I wanted with it. I wasted no time. Within days, I secured the lease. Then, with all the money I had saved from the backyard business, plus a little help from investors who loved my story, I bought a food truck and set up a permanent barbecue stand, right next to the HMA's property. Now, every time Karen stepped outside the HOA office, she would see and smell my barbecue stand in full operation. I even put up a huge banner that read, "Find by the HOA? Come get a free brisket sandwich." The neighborhood loved it. Karen? She was losing her mind. Karen tried everything to get my food truck shut down. She complained to the health department. I passed every inspection. She called the fire marshal. He told her I was within code. She even tried to buy the land out from under me, but the owner refused to sell to her. Every move she made backfired spectacularly. The final straw? When a city council member, who happened to be a barbecue lover, publicly supported my business and even stopped by for a sandwich. Now the HMA wasn't just battling me, they were battling public opinion. One day, as I was tending to the smoker, a neighbor walked up to me, grinning. "Did you hear the news?" he asked. I shook my head. He handed me his phone, and my jaw dropped. A petition had been circulating in the neighborhood, one that called for Karen to be removed as HOA president. It had hundreds of signatures. Apparently, after her failed lawsuit, even the HOA board was turning against her. A week later, the board held a meeting to vote on her removal. Karen begged and pleaded, but in the end, she lost her position. The woman who had spent years ruling the HMA like a dictator was officially out. And when she came storming past my barbecue stand, scowling, I simply tipped my hat and said, "Care for a sandwich?" She stormed off without a word. With Karen gone, the HMA had no choice but to back off. The fines? Refunded. The stupid rules? Revised. The harassment? Over. And me? I was still thriving. Within months, my barbecue stand had grown so popular that I upgraded to a full restaurant, just outside the HMA's reach. To this day, people still stop by and ask, "Is this the barbecue that took down an HMA?" And every time, I just grin and serve them a plate. Because nothing tastes better than victory, except maybe slow-smoked brisket.